Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Sajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन धाम की, मथुरा धाम की, द्वारकापुरी धाम की, पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की, श्री मायापुर नवदी धाम की, गंगामय यमुनामय की, भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की, समावेत भक्त वृंद की, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshukvanmelitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupak Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Welcome all of you for the Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning. I first of all seek the blessings of His Holiness Bhakti Bharat Bhagavat Maharaj. Maharaj gives Bhakti Sadachar course all over the world. But even before giving the course, Maharaj sets a very ideal example by attending the Srimad Bhagavatam class as per the instruction of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada always wanted all senior, junior, young and old devotees to participate in the Bhagavatam classes. So Maharaj not only preaches, but also sets an ideal example for all of us. And I also observed 64 rounds chanting. So many devotees have never turned up in this temple, honestly speaking. For the first time, I felt it was almost tripled or quadrupled, I felt, the crowd. Of course, in our temple, we had a very frank policy that, any brahmachari says he wants to chant 64 rounds, his sevas will be relieved that day and it will be given to other devotees. So we had given that option. So nobody can say that sevas were there, so I couldn't do. So, but still, nevertheless, the impetus to chant comes from superior instruction. So Maharaj's enthusiasm and Maharaj's planning of the prasadam menu, and Maharaj putting everybody to rest the previous night, making them wake up. Practically, there was a big crowd in the Bhaktivedanta hall. Everybody had to find a place to sit. Thank you, Maharaj, for your wonderful example. I have been doing from this book, Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani by His Holiness Shivaram Swami Maharaj, every Wednesday, whenever I am in Pune. So now we are in the 23rd chapter. Today we are discussing on the systematic worship of the name. So we are in the 4th chapter. A and B we have finished. We are in the C. The quality of worship depends on the quality of faith. The quality of faith is developed by the systematic worship of the name. Please read. Yeah? Read it.
Introduction. The rest of this chapter deals with the systematic worship, bhajan of Krishna's holy names and pastimes, and explains who is qualified to engage in such bhajan and who is not. Persons either without faith in Krishna or with faith mixed with material desire are in the category of the unqualified. They may chant Hare Krishna and hear about Krishna according to their abilities, but such practice does not constitute true systematic worship of the name.
Yeah. So the word systematic worship bhajan of Krishna's holy names pastimes explains who is qualified to engage in bhajan. That's the main topic today. Persons either without faith in Krishna or mixed faith, which is mixed with material desire, they are unqualified. We will explain that. Please read it.
Systematic worship of the name. In reality, even faithful devotees free of material desire, but still conditioned by the modes of nature, cannot practice all aspects of pure worship. That prerogative, as will be described later, is reserved for fully liberated Vaishnavas. How skilled devotees perform systematic worship, how hearing Krishna's pastime plays a role in such worship, and how the perfection of such worship manifests itself will be discussed in the following chapters.
Okay. See the top first sentence. He is saying faithful devotees, free of material desire, but still conditioned by modes of nature. This is what Lord Kapila explains about Abhisandaya yohim sam dambam matsaryam evava samrambi vinnadrik bhavam sabhakti tamasamuchite. He talks about himsam means those devotees in the practice of devotional service, they exhibit certain behaviors which are inappropriate, like violent behavior. Himsam. Dambam means boastful behavior. Atmano bhakti darpataha. Proud of one's practice of devotional service. Dambam. Matsaryam means inability to tolerate others' fame. Matsaryam. Samrambhi means angry. Bhinnadrik bhav means separatist mentality. So these are all in Tamaguna Bhakti, Tamaguni Bhakti, he says. In Rajoguni Bhakti, he says Falakankshi, aspiration for name, fame, glory, or after achieving it, becoming proud and boastful. So, fruity mentality. Similarly, in the Sattva-guna also, one may become knowledgeable and happy. And knowledge leads sometimes to pride, and happiness may lead to complacency. In this way, mixture of those three gunas in bhakti leads to 81 types of devotional service. So he's saying that even if one sometimes you find the liberated jnanis and yogis, about them there is a verse in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam where it says that they have almost become freed from material existence. They are just at the brink of material existence. They're going to put their foot in Brahman. In that stage, they become like ants which gets caught up in a puddle of water. In the same manner, the yogis become angry. Due to the anger, they become carried away by like a small ant in a puddle of water. That example is given in the 11th canto in one verse. So which means material desires may be conquered, like Dhruvasamani, for example, sleeps in the bank of a river. Sometimes sometimes he may sleep in a cave. He can fly in the air, can walk on water, and he may be very austere. His eating, sleeping program may be very austere. But still he becomes a victim of anger and pride. You see that? That's what he's saying. So therefore, they cannot practice then pure worship, he says. What is systematic worship? It is explained here. Yeah.
Answer. Krishna defines bhajan as serving him with pure faith and love while being constantly absorbed in thoughts of him.
Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo matah.
And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion.
Yeah. So what is the meaning of with great faith, thinking of Krishna in one's mind? Actually, the word is sfurti or prakashante is repeatedly used in the scriptures. Suratyadaha, swayameva suratyadaha. Or prakashante, mahatman, yasa deve parabhaktirata deve tada guru, tasyate krita hiyata prakashante, mahatmana, divigyan hriday prakashito. Which means the knowledge awakens in our heart. The pastimes of the Lord, they are manifested in our heart by Lord's mercy. So somebody might then ask a question, in whose heart it manifests and whose heart doesn't manifest? So that means we can prepare our heart for the Lord to manifest. So there are methods prescribed in the scriptures, how we can prepare. The first and foremost is taking shelter of a Vaishnava Guru. Adava Guru Padashray, Saddharma Pracha, Vishtambena Guru Seva, Sadhu Atman Vartanam, Krishna Diksha Dishikshanam. The first 5 items of 64 are very, very vital. Taking shelter of a Vaishnava Guru, accepting Shiksha from him, Diksha from him, eventually serving him, and also following in the footsteps of the Guru Parampara, Acharyas, and then in this way, and then the 5 potent forms of devotional service also, like Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavata Shravan Madhuravasa Shri Murtira Shraddhaya Sevan. So these are 5 very potent amongst the 64. So these are all prescribed as the seed, Bhaktilata Bij. Why it is prescribed, the rules, regulations, methods, procedures, ideas, Prabhupada says. These are the seed that Guru gives to the disciple. Method by which the prema or bhakti existing in our heart can be unfolded. So the unfolding is done by aligning with the instructions of the Guru and applying it in our life. So why in some people it unfolds faster, why in some people's case it doesn't unfold very easily? The pastimes of the thinking of remembrance of the Lord itself is a blessing that a devotee can achieve continued remembrance. like Lord blessed Muchukunda, may you have my continued remembrance, like that. So this will be understood today as we proceed further. Yeah. Because?
Because chanting Krishna's holy name is a method of service prescribed in the sage. Worship actually means to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with pure faith and love while being absorbed in thoughts of Krishna.
Yeah, that means tongue should be uttering the holy name, that is a willing aspect, and the mind should be thinking of the glories of the Lord, and feeling should be the second verse of Shikshashtakam. Durdaivam idrisham ihajani nanuraga. Even after the Ruchi Asakti stage, one feels oneself incompetent to call out the holy names of the Lord. So he's saying that externally we are chanting with the tongue, but internally there is a pure faith and love that predominates the heart. Yes.
When the techniques used in this chanting are mature and follow the path chalked out by previous acharyas, such chanting is systematic worship of the Lord.
Yeah, one place Prabhupada says that rendering service with hands, legs and body, remembering the Lord in the heart with the longing to attain His lotus feet, with fervent feelings of devotion. And that is actually called devotional service. It is not just an external activity. It's an internal and devotional emotion is also accompanying that. Yeah.
Who can truly perform systematic worship. This means that both devotees in bondage and those in the liberated state can systematically worship Krishna. Performed by those still influenced by
Who are the people? See, even devotees in bondage and those are liberated can systematically worship. You will explain how. Yeah.
Performed by those still influenced by material nature, this bhajana is practice, sadhana. Performed by those in the liberated state, it is either advanced bhava or perfect prema.
Yeah. So in the sadhana, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, our inspiration to perform devotion service comes from what? From the scripture and from the order of Guru. Based on that we are doing. And when we come to the Raganuga stage, then it is a spontaneous devotion which surpasses the instructions of the scriptures, which means not that it derides the scripture. Without the scripture or the Guru chasing behind the disciple, devotee is enlivened and inspired by the practice of Krishna consciousness, that one spontaneously continues, he becomes unstoppable. One continuously goes on with devotion service with great delight. That is the spontaneous stage. Yeah. Yes.
And as already mentioned, devotees in ecstatic devotion are still subject to stumbling blocks. Thus, like the devotees still in bondage, they are classified.
See, what are the stumbling blocks for devotees in ecstatic devotion? Aparadhas. Aparadhas they don't get dissolved until prema stage or the Bhagavad Darshanam stage. Only directly seeing the Lord eye to eye, at that stage only prema stage the aparadhas go. Therefore, even at bhava there can be stumbling blocks. Yes.
Thus, like the devotees still in bondage, they are classified as practitioners, sadhakas. Only devotees at the stage of love, prema, can truly perform perfect systematic worship.
Yeah, that means in bhajan siddhi or mantra siddhi, Prabhupada uses the word. So perfectly to perform systematic worship is possible only for devotees in prema. Otherwise, the previous stages, there are some stumbling blocks, he says.
Worship at stage of practice, unsteady. Worship of Krishna at the stage of practice takes two forms, steady and unsteady. The activities and moods of devotees in unsteady worship, anisthita bhajana, are more or less free from the effects of past sinful activities. For such devotees, faith is weak, their knowledge meager, and their identification with the body is strong.
Yeah. Because Chitraketu was identifying with body and sun, he could not become a recipient of the good instruction of Angira Muni and Narada Muni before. And when the boy passed away, Narada Muni made the child speak the transcendental knowledge. Andikshikya shoka mohav. So his shoka, lamentation and illusion was finished by hearing the Atma Jnana. Then he became awakened after that. So, and the knowledge, meager knowledge becomes, more deeper knowledge, and the faith becomes stronger. Then 7 days he performed chanting of the mantra without taking anything except drinking water. So, and then after 7 days he got darshan of Lord Sankarshan. He became Narada Muni's disciple after that. So, that not only for him, for King Chitraketu and all the queens, the bodily consciousness was dissolved after seeing this incident. So, this is one example of how the illusion is exposed and exploded. No more illusion for them. Otherwise, they were all identified with the body very strongly. So, the main reason for Anishtita Bhajana, I wanted to illustrate this point of Anishtita Bhajana with an example. Just 1 minute. See, there are Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about 4 type of anarthas. Maya muktasya jivasya. You all can repeat that verse. Maya muktasya jivasya. Nyeyo anarthas chaturvidaha. Hriddaurbalyam. Cha aparado. Asatrishna. Tattva vibramaha. I want to show you that 4 things and then give an example so that it will be. You can see this one. These are the 4 anarthas. One is Asat Trishna. Asat means temporary. Trishna means thirst. So hankering for things which are temporary, which may be earthly or heavenly, or mystic powers, bhukti, mukti, siddhi. Hankering for any of these 3 is called as Asat Trishna. Very simple. And then secondly, Hridaya Daurbalyam. That's the second one he says. Which means spiritual weakness of heart, which is attachment to Krishna itara, objects not related to Krishna. Another one he says is, so earlier is hankering and Hridaya Daurbalyam is attachment. Kshudram, Hridaya Daurbalyam, Tyaktva Parandapa. Krishna tells Arjuna that you are attached to the bodies of the relatives. Like that. And then another thing he says is deceitfulness or fault finding and enviousness. So these are all categorized in the Hridaya Daurbalyam. For example, Dhritarashtra was attached to Duryodhana, so he was envious of Bhima. You can see that. Yeah. Similarly, deceitfulness means what? Giving importance to appearing saintly than actually being saintly. So that's kapatata. Just like Ravana in front of Sita. He came appearing saintly, but he was not saintly. He was hypocritical. So hypocritical behavior. Yeah. And attachment to objects not related to Krishna. How is that different from the previous Asat Trishna? In Asat Trishna, there is a hankering for earthly or heavenly or siddhis and all that. There is a hankering when you don't possess it. Here you are possessing it, so you are attached to it. That's the difference. So Asat Trishna, Daurbalyam. And then third one is called, and the desire for fame also is coming in that. Fault finding, fame, envy and attachment. And then Aparada. There is Namaparad, Dhamaparad, Sevaparad, Vaishnavaparad. All these different aparad. Jana aparad also. For the common people also, one should not unnecessarily offend any living entity. That's aparadas. And the fourth one is Tattva Vibramaha. Swa Tattva Vibrama. Illusion about Atma, what it is. Paratattva Vibrama. Illusion about the supreme truth, whether it is personal or impersonal, not clearly knowing. And Sadhana Sadhya Vibrama also. What is the sadhana to be performed? Some people do Ahangruha Upasana, thinking themselves to be God. Wrong sadhana it is. One should recognize one's position as servant of the Lord. So, in this way, Tattva Vibrama. These 4 things I will explain with an analogy now. And it is a very easily understandable, very simple analogy. Say you want to go from Pune to Mumbai, for example. You want to go in a car. In case you will find, if you are going to be attracted to many things while on the way, from point to point we will not go. Say you want to purchase some chikki or vada pav here and there in different places. Then your car direction changes. You get distracted. Like that Krishna says, Bahushaka hi anantascha buddhayo abhyavisayanam. This comes from which one? Out of the 4. Asat Trishna. Asat Trishna. If I hanker for objects, earthly, heavenly, mystical, and all these things, I get distracted from the ultimate goal of loving service to Krishna. You get distracted. Imagine I have to reach Bombay in 3 or 4 hours. It may take 10 hours for me. Because I get distracted by multiple things. Because Vyavasayatmika buddhi is not there. Because of Asat Krishna. That's the problem. And now, imagine I have put huge amount of load in the car, in the top, big suitcases and very, very heavy. Just like sometimes you see in Lonavala, the trucks which go with 24 wheels, slowly. You have seen that? They have a very heavy load inside. So when load increases, speed increases, reduces. Yeah. When load increases, speed reduces. Is it not true? Similarly, what is the load in our head? Janma, Aishwarya, Shuta, Shivya, Yedamana, Madapuman. In South India, they call pride as head weight. They call it head weight. Hey, he has a lot of head weight. They will say head weight means he's a very proud fellow. And it is very shastrically valid because Shastras say that if a person is drowning in the ocean, you put a heavy gold crown on his head. Is it helpful? That will help him to drown faster. So these are opulences, Janma, Aishwarya, Shuta, Shri, but they become enemies. Like Ramakrishna Sutta had scholarship, Alakur Manigrave had wealth. You will see like that. Yajnik Brahmanas had high birth. Correct, no? In this way, somebody may have Janma or Aishwarya or opulences. They were actually Dhanadakmaja, sons of Kubera. But these things became enemy to their spiritual progress because this weight reduces our speed. What is that verse? Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya apahrita chetasam. There also you will find that samadhavana vidiyate. Actually, when the attachments are burdensome on our heads and shoulders, then we become slowed down. Because then, again, the samadhi doesn't happen because of the metal attachments. They pin us down. Then we are sluggish. We are dragging along because of the metal. Instead of developing attachment to Krishna, we are caught up in metal attachments. So the car speed slows down when the burden load increases. Similarly, if you are walking also, would you carry heavy luggage or a light luggage? So we will also see the solution for each of this. What is the solution for the first one? First one I told you, car is going like this, here and there, everywhere because it is distracted by multiple attractions. It is not going straight. So then what is the solution for that? To get Vyavasayatmika buddhi there. How can one avoid distractions? Actually, therefore we do chanting. According to our acharyas, the chanting of the holy name, the sense of touch which engages when we are chanting, they also call it Trataka chanting also. Our Srila Gaur Krishna Babaji used to have a stone engraved with the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Sometimes he used to do Abhishek also for that holy name. So when one chants the holy name and makes an effort to concentrate, gradually the distractions will go away. The mind will, Krishna says that, yato nischalati manas chanchalam asyaram tatastato niyamyatat atmani eva vasham nayat, he says. As the mind goes. And he doesn't say, overnight you will be able to do that. It takes time. He says, Shanai uparamet, he says. Buddhya jatagrihitaya. He says, Shanai means gradually. Suddenly, immediately, overnight it won't come. Therefore, yato nischalati. As the mind goes out, bring it back and try to hear. 3 things we have to do. Don't let the mind go out. In case it has gone out, drag it back. And after dragging back, focus it on the holy name and don't let it go again. So, this is how the distracted mind can be brought. Although there may be hankerings, the hankerings will eventually evaporate if one chants the holy name. Over a period of time, as taste for the holy name will increase, the hankerings will evaporate. One more way, Bhagavatam says the hankerings can be given up, is understanding the futility of the things for which we are hankering. And the dosha, bhukta bhoga parityakta drishta dosha. Drishta dosha means, see the defect in material objects. They are not capable of offering me everlasting pleasure. Like somebody who is mad after watching TV, he thinks TV is the source of bliss. Is TV the source of bliss? Such a petty thing. Because he is watching cricket all day, morning to evening. Actually, Krishna is the source of all bliss. But as long as we don't know that fact, we are attracted to temporary things of this world. So Asat Trishna can be given up one way by Drishta Dosha, by seeing the defect in them. Like we are attracted to material bodies of man and woman. But what are these material bodies? It's a perishable commodity. It's a diseased commodity. It's a commodity which gets old and gradually it's changeable, perishable, relative, full of dualities. So in this way, one should contemplate on the temporary nature of the asat objects. This is one thing. Another thing is you should make an effort to concentrate the mind on chanting of the holy name. Manmana, Bhagavat Bhakta Krishna says. By this, asat Krishna can be given up. And the car will not go here and there, it will go straight. Secondly, I told you a lot of burden and luggage in the car. What we can do? We should learn to be light travelers. You want to be heavy duty traveler. Some people have 5 suitcases. Isn't it? Some suitcases are so big, even they can sit inside. So big, isn't it? So, if you have to travel, if you travel like that, it's very cumbersome, correct now? Cumbersome to take so many with us. Yeah. So, then we have to learn from one special Maharaj in ISKCON. Anybody knows? Hanumat Preksha Swami. His whole Hanumat Preksha Swami Maharaj ki. He has only one jolna bag. He just carries. Only one cloth he takes. That's all. So, when he had come to Pune, I was interviewing him. He was giving a pose. See, this is the only one I have. I don't carry anything. Of course, if we can't imitate. But what I am saying is, if you are a light traveler, our speed will be much faster. So, in spiritual life also, those things which are burdensome for us, actually, Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Shri may be beneficial, provided we are able to engage in Krishna service fully. There is one verse in the 11th canto, Grihitva apiyendriyairarthan yo nadveshti na hrishyati Vishnoor mayamidam pashyan savai bhagavatottama. One of the definitions of Mahabhagavat is Grihitva api. He accepts the sense objects, but not for his enjoyment, but for, he knows very well this is Vishnu Maya and he engages it in Lord's service. Then nothing is burdensome for us. If we can engage everything in Lord's service. Generally it becomes burdensome because we accumulate things for our enjoyment, not for Lord's service. Correct, no? So, handling electricity is a difficult thing. Handling fire is a difficult thing. Handling Maya is a difficult thing. Either we possess less or we possess only to engage in Krishna service. Like that. So, that is the second thing, Asat Trishna. Asat Trishna means metal attachments which become, see, if you lift a brick in the hand, it's very easy. But you hold the brick for half an hour or so, your hand will severely pain. You will start feeling pain here. If you're holding it, you can try that. Therefore, the 10th offense doesn't say to have material desires. What it says? To maintain material desires. If you have material desires and you are planning to remove it, you are nicely placed. You are fortunate. But you have material desires, you are making a plan to maintain it. Then we are wrongly placed. It's very dangerous. Because it's going to become heavier, burdensome. So if car becomes very heavily loaded, but imagine a sparrow carrying a nariyal on his head. How can it fly? It will become chutney below that. That's why most people in the world become smashed by material attachments. That's the second thing. And then the third thing, when we are driving the car, imagine I forgot to take my specs. So what do you call it? It's 16 by 16 they call it, I think, no? 6 by 6 they call it, proper power. If you cannot see, then you have blurred eyes. You cannot see. So there is likely to be accident. Sometimes a dog may run across the road, correct? You should be able to see clearly. So, or one may have color blindness. Eyes are not clear. Or your eyes may be proper, but the glass may be covered with fog or something. You have to take a cloth and wipe it. Similarly, we are living in the material world where we are andha, we are blind to spiritual knowledge. And sometimes you may have spiritual knowledge, but still the material world is surrounded by tamasi. Ande tamasi magnasya jnana deepo udhiryatam. Chitraketu says to both our Narada Muni and Angira Muni. Tasmat yuvam gramya pashur mama mudha diya prabho andhe tamasi magnasya jnana deepa udhiryatam. He's saying that, I am andha and the material world is tamasi, he's saying. It's a world of darkness. Spiritual world is tamasima jyotirgamaya, isn't it? So, and what is that in that 4 items? By having proper vision and by not having any fog covering the glass, when we are able to see properly, what is that out of the 4? Freedom from Tattva Vibrama. Tattva Vibrama. Very good clarity on, I am fully convinced I am only servant of Krishna. I am not Parabrahman. I am only Brahman. Krishna is Paramatma. I am Atma. We are convinced about the fact. And Lord is master, I am servant. So Lord's position, my position. And what sadhana will take me back to him? Ayinandatanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam budhav kripaya tava pada pankajastita dhuli sadrisham vichintaya. This verse talks about the right conception. Lord is master, I am servant. When Hanuman is looking at Lord Ram, what is he thinking? He is my master, Swami, I am kinkar. When Ravana is looking at Rama, what is he thinking? I want to get rid of him because Ravana wants to be center of the world. He wants to be God. He wants a kingdom of God without God. This is a wrong conception. Then what is the right consciousness? When Hanuman is looking at Sita, he thinks, oh, this is my mother. She is meant to be delivered back to Rama. This is the right consciousness. Everything in this material world is Sita's expansion. Like Maharaj was telling the other day. Take everything and give it back to Rama. So that is right consciousness. And what is wrong consciousness? I am the pivot of the universe and everything should revolve around me and everyone should be at my beck and call. Modern man also thinks like that. He puts himself in the center. The environment is for him, animals are for him, all the commodities are for him. He is the center. If you see the school textbooks, that's what they teach people. You are the center of the universe. So that is Ravana mentality. So how do we give up that? Nadanam, najanam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani janmanishware, avatat bhakti ragaitu. This is the right consciousness verse. Nadanam, najanam, na sundarim. Everything is to be engaged in Lord's service. So these 2 verses are very important. Right consciousness and right conception. When we have, then the Tattva Brahma will be gone. So many a times we identify with the body. Yasyatma buddhir gunapetri dhatuke. And that's the main cause for your jiva considering himself as a man or a woman or a brahmana or a shudra or educated or illiterate and all that. The bodily consciousness is avidya, or ignorance. So that ignorance has to be first eradicated. Prabhupada says jnanam and vijnanam. Jnanam means no, I am not the body, I am the soul. And vijnana means to know that the soul is not God, soul is servant of God. Then it is complete. We should have both. So then the Tattva Vibrama can be cleansed. And then say now we are going to Bombay, Pune to Bombay. Suddenly you pick up speed, you want to go faster. You hit one car on the way. Then immediately the traffic policeman will ask both the cars to go to the side. Then the car becomes stagnated. At least 1 hour he will hold you. You lose time. What is that in these 4 items? Aparad. Correct, no? Aparada. When you commit aparada, practically we are stagnated in spiritual life. Because aparadas arise from envy towards other Vaishnavas. And leg pulling, backbiting, bad mouthing. With half information talking about somebody. That day Maharaj was very beautifully stressing on that point. In the absence of somebody when we talk and they are not around to clarify, then it becomes offense. So, aparadas will not destroy your devotion service, but they will envelop, camouflage your devotion service. And you will not be able to access it sometimes, even for some lifetimes sometimes. So the car gets stagnated, it's unable to progress further. The tender feelings of affection for Krishna, those things get affected. Heart becomes very hard. With a hard heart, how can one experience feelings of devotion? So these are the 4 things. Asat Trishna, Hridorbalyam, Aparad, and Tattva Vibrama. So I was telling this car example because you can easily relate with that, correct, na? Isn't it? So, because our body is also like a car, correct, na? Our body is also like a car. Prabhupada says in one purport, You put water in the radiator and air in the tire, petrol in the car, but that is not the goal of life. The goal of life is to take the car and go and do your business. In the same manner, the business we should do with this bodily car is to return back to Godhead. And for us to be able to do that, neither should the car get stopped, nor should the car get distracted to multiple goals, nor should the car get overloaded with material. The material assets spoil spiritual assets, Prabhupada says. Material assets, not spoils, foils. Material assets spoils, of course spoils also. Foils and spoils. Material assets spoil spiritual assets. So, just like if you have firewood, if you sprinkle some water in it, and then you put it in a furnace, instead of getting fire, you get smoke, you get. So, material attachments are like that. So Prabhupada said, if devotees keep themselves dry from getting wet by material sense gratification, then the fiery spirit of Krishna consciousness can be experienced. Therefore, material attachments can be... so how the material attachments can be curbed? By intense chanting and focused chanting. The chanting actually destroys the karma bijas. And the chanting actually awakens loving propensity for rendering service to Krishna. That's a gift of chanting, one of the gifts of chanting the holy name. And also, aparadas can be avoided by etiquettes, proper etiquettes, maryada. Sannikarsho atra martrena anadarana karanam. It comes in 10th canto. When Krishna was speaking to the solar eclipse time in Kurukshetra, in that section he will read, Sannikarsho atra martrena means when familiarity happens, then anadarana karanam. There is contempt. So, how can we give up, disrespect to Vaishnavas, not become overly familiar? One has to be very careful. So then, I read further. Do you know?
They know that they are Krishna's servants, but their heart is still very much a servant of the mind and senses. Thus they can hardly...
It's not that we don't know we are Krishna's servants. Theoretically we know, but still the tendency for enjoyment and senses is not gone.
Thus they can hardly concentrate on the sound of Krishna's name. What to speak or think of his pastimes while chanting? Because this form
actually, when is it possible to think of Krishna's pastimes? Very naturally, nivritta tarshayar. When the mind has become completely emptied of any material propensities like hankering for sense gratification or lingering material attachments, when these things are all gone, the mind is very calm. Therefore, it is said the Paramahamsas are those who have retired from the material propensities. Then the mind is free to think of Krishna, think Krishna's pastimes. It is somewhat like timelessness. One goes beyond the... there are no immediate things to be done to run after in this world. One is completely convinced that Krishna's lotus feet is the only shelter. He says, Nitai charana satya, ahara sevaka nitya. Correct, no? He says. So, Krishna's lotus feet becomes a constant phenomenon in the mind and heart of the devotee. So, therefore, I was telling Tattva Vibrahma means we are blind to see the reality, and at the same time, we are also covered by the temptations and allurements of this world, which, like considering rope to be a snake, we say, no? So, both, there are external and internal challenges, like a log of wood and ant in between, both sides fire. Externally sense objects, internally previous impressions. So these things keep the jiva submerged in illusion. So therefore they are not able to concentrate. Go ahead.
Because this form of worship is based on pure faith and affection, it may be called bhajan. Because it is weak and sporadic.
The word bhaj, dhatu, from that only the word bhakti comes. Bhaj means it's voluntarily done, it's lovingly performed, and it is a glorification of the Supreme Lord. Bhajan, it is done for Him. So from that word only bhakti comes. Yes.
But because it is weak and sporadic, it can hardly be called systematic.
So the Hridaya Daurbalyam makes us less intense and weak, just like sprinkling of water in a firewood, I told you, or burden increasing on the top of the car. It makes us slow, I told you. So it's less intense, like a rocket. If it is going at 11 km per second, just gets out of the Gurutva-akarshan. Similarly, if bhakti is very intense, then one goes back to Godhead. If the bhakti is less intense, it is sprinkled with sense gratification, then the rocket is not able to go out. It just takes a U-turn and comes back. In this world, it's weak. And sporadic actually means it's not uniform. Satatam kirtayanto mam, Krishna says. Ananya chetaha satatam yomam smarati nityashaga tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yukta. So it should be nitya, satata. That is the proper bhakti. But sporadic means sometimes ghana tarala, vyuda vikalpa, niyama akshama. So sometimes we follow vows, other time we don't follow vows. Sometimes thick devotion service, sometimes very thin. Sometimes we take vows, we are unable to keep vows. So that is sporadic. That is called weak bhakti. Especially it happens in those Utsahamai, Ganatrala, Vyudavikalpa, those stages before Bhajana Kriya, Anishtita Bhajana Kriya.
Worship as stage of practice 3. With further purification of the heart comes steady worship of the holy name, Nishtita Bhajana. At this stage, attraction for the mundane.
See, Nishtita Bhajana is nothing but Nishtha stage. Actually, as heart gets more and more and more purified and shines like a mirror, then one comes to Nishtha stage. Anartha stage is over, then one comes to Nishtha. In the Nishtita Bhajana, there the qualities of a higher nature. You'll tell more. Go ahead.
At this stage, attraction for the mundane, the fact of past sins and offenses fades.
For example, Dhruva Maharaj, I have put the picture of Dhruva. Why? Because his attractions of material things started fading away. No more attraction. What was once upon a time very charming, now the attraction is no more. Correct? Like we all have experience of this fading attraction. Like we are attracted to, tricycle or a horse, wooden horse, or a balloon. Where is the attraction? Prabhupada says the jiva gives up the childhood proclivities. When he becomes a student, he has now higher duties to execute. But you will see people, even after growing in age, some old desires don't go away. I have seen an 80-year-old man in South India, I saw. He was watching cricket morning to evening. Morning 10 to evening 6 he is watching. And whenever somebody puts a sixer, he is jumping from his seat. He is laughing and clapping hands. That means his thrill is not in devotional service. His thrill is in cricket. So he has to take one more body to play cricket. Correct, no? So we can check whether our old desires are fading away, material desires, or they are still lingering. So like somebody was eating chicken, mutton, all those things. But after coming to devotion service, they gave it up. Now, initially you give up for sense enjoyment. That is actually a virakti. One develops virakti. Now, somebody may say, I have given up meat eating, but you have to see the different things, different people have different attractions. Somebody is attracted to man-woman relationship. Somebody is attracted to eating. Somebody is attracted to commodities, things. Somebody is fascinated by material subjects like mathematics, or somebody is attracted to physics or astronomy. Somebody has material attractions like that. Or researching, correct, in the laboratory. That is very thrilling. It gives a kick. So we will see that everybody has some material attractions. As we grow, we have to check how much, like Dhruva Maharaj, are my material attractions fading away and is spiritual attraction awakening. That should be checked. That means we are coming to Nishtha. If we are coming to Nishtha stage, it means spiritual attraction is becoming very mazboot, very solid. And the material attractions are fading away. Yes.
At this stage, attraction for the mundane, the facts of past sins and offenses fades. As material attraction fades, faith and knowledge, along with the sense of being Krishna's servant, grow proportionately. It's
like X and 1 minus X. If I have X amount of material attractions, 1 minus X amount of faith and knowledge about Krishna and servitorship to Krishna, that much it develops. For example, if my material attachments are 30%, then 70% my faith and knowledge in Krishna increases like that.
The devotee's purified mind enables them to concentrate on the holy name and to think of Krishna's form, qualities, and pastimes. This level of cultivation of the holy name, though still not mature, is actually systematic worship, sadhana, bhajana. See, one amazing thing happens as the mind gets purified. The tender feelings of affection for Krishna and his pastimes and his activities will arise in the heart of a devotee. One will experience ecstasy when hearing Krishna's pastimes, how Krishna deals with his devotees, what qualities he manifests, how he behaves. So
how do you know that is happening? If you heard some pastime from Srimad Bhagavatam, it will keep lingering in the mind. Even after you leave the class, you are walking, you are lying down, you are doing some other activity, but in the background, one will keep remembering about the Lord's behavior. How the Lord is sportive and humorous and playful and merciful and kind and generous, and so many qualities will attack the mind of the devotee repeatedly. That is an example of a purified mind. Just like in a mirror which is completely clean, you take a wet cloth and wipe it, and as you can see the face very clearly. Like that, a purified mind can reflect Krishna's pastimes. Yeah, yes.
This level of cultivation of the holy name, though still not mature, is actually systematic worship, sadhana, bhajana.
Yeah. He's saying this level of cultivation of the holy name, though still not mature, he's saying, is still counted as systematic worship. It is sadhana bhajan. That means even in practice also one can get this. Like you see the picture below, the devotee is firmly taking shelter of the Lord. Therefore, Krishna may sometimes manifest himself in our heart even though we are not fully pure. What is that verse? Vikriditam brajavadu biridam cha vishnoh shraddhanvita anushrunayat atavarnayedyah bhaktim param bhagavati pratilabhya kamam hridrogamashvapahinoti achirena dhirah. This verse says, bhaktim param bhagavati pratilabhya kamam. Is saying that initially our mind has kamam, but when bhakti comes in, then there is bhakti uncalm, and then bhakti kicks out calm. Then calm goes out, what remains? Only bhakti. That means even in a stage when we have not become fully purified, Krishna's pastimes can manifest. This verse says that. Yeah.
Difference between...
Although we say no, Vishaya chadiya kabe shuddha be mana kabe hamahe rabu Shri Vrindavana. You give up the Vishaya chadiya, give up the Vishayas, then Vrindavan will manifest in your heart, this says. But Bhagavatam gives a blessing that when you are making an effort to give up the sense gratification, at that time Vrindavan manifests. In Bhagavatam, that verse says that. So Krishna is so kind, he gives some sample taste so that we will get the strength to kick out the unwanted things. Yeah.
Difference between Anishtita Bhajan and Anishtita Bhajan Kriya. The two terms Anishtita and Nishtita Bhajan describe something different than the two stages of sadhana bhakti. Namely, Anishtita Bhajana Kriya, unsteady devotional service in practice, and Nishtita Bhajana Kriya, steady devotional service in practice, elaborately described in chapters 16 through 18. Here the two terms refer to divisions of a single aspect of the two stages of sadhana bhakti, namely the purposeful, systematic chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra.
Yeah, so we have already covered that before, unsteady to steady.
In ISKCON, this purposeful chanting generally refers to the time devotees spend exclusively trying to improve their chanting in what is commonly known as the japa period.
Yeah, morning 2 hours which we chant, yeah.
At that time, devotees make extra effort to put aside all distractions and carefully concentrate on the sound of the holy name.
See, the top picture is perfect, the bottom one should not be done. See that one? Correct, huh? Maharaj very nicely performs many skits through devotees. Teach them, yeah. Yeah.
Yet ideally, systematic worship is not limited to the time spent chanting japa. The ability to practice bhajana matures in proportion to one's ability to remember Krishna. As one's ability grows, bhajana increasingly pervades all aspects of one's devotional practice.
Yeah. That means if our chanting quality improves, then our Krishna consciousness permeates our other activities also during the day, he says. Actually, it is not that the temple hall is a holy place and other places are meant for sense gratification outside. Actually, every moment of a devotee is property of Krishna. So, therefore, he says that as ability grows, then bhajan pervades. Go ahead.
When Nishtita Bhajana Kriya becomes Nishtita Bhajana. For instance, later, when devotees attain the stages of taste and attachment, their ability to concentrate on
taste
Krishna,
and attachment is ruchi and asakti. Yeah.
Their ability to concentrate on Krishna becomes steady and spontaneous. Because of natural attraction, everything the devotees do at these stages is full of Krishna consciousness. That is, everything they do becomes the kind of bhajana Krishna speaks about in the Gita. This is the standard of devotional service taught by the Lord when he tells Arjuna, always think of me and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting, Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. And at that time, the distinction between the execution of other devotional activities and worship of the holy name evaporates. In short, all activities of Nishtitha Bhajana Kriya becomes Nishtitha Bhajana.
See, what is the difference between Bhajana Kriya and Bhajan? Morning, our series of spiritual programs beginning with 4:30 to 9:30, we may do it with more concentration, attention, absorption. And then once 9:30 you take prasad, and then the daytime, our activities when we are doing, we may be less Krishna conscious and there may be more prayas, there may be prajalpa, atyahara, and niyamagraha, all those things may creep in during the day. So then there is a clear-cut demarcation between Nishtita Bhajana Kriya in the morning, and then the daytime, we are not very attentive. But as one becomes advanced devotee, the Bhajana Kriya stage time is not the only time for Bhajana Kriya. All day one is doing bhajan with spiritual absorption, he is saying. Mam Anusmara. It becomes intensified. Then you don't see difference between chanting time in the morning and in the daytime doing other devotional activities. I have personally observed also, the great souls do everything very meticulously. Anything. When you see them, like for example, one devotee was telling me about my special master in the flight when the flight is about to take off, he will just fold the palms and chant the whole Mangalachara, and he will chant, And similarly, whenever anything he does, he does it very meticulously. Correct, no? This I have observed in many sannyasis and gurus. I have seen that. His Grace Sankrishna Adhikari Prabhu, he came to Pune. I saw he has a small deity, only this much, 3 inches high, that's all. One Krishna deity. So he kept it on the table, in a closet. And he's offering obeisances. I was wondering, where is he offering obeisances to? I didn't see any picture. I saw the deity was a small deity. Similarly, you will find in our ancestors' deities and all, they're very small. You have seen that? The deities are small, their obeisances are very big. Their puja paraphernalia and the amount of hours they spend for the puja, that was very big. But in Kali Yuga, we are so, dull in this. Therefore, Prabhupada put very big deities and bright lights so that we will notice, at least we will see, okay, Radha Vandana Chandra is there. Isn't it? But in traditional temples, if you see, sanctum is deep inside small deities. You've seen that? Yeah. So, therefore, the Nishtita Bhajan should happen all day, he's saying. Then there's no difference. Worship of the holy name and devotional activities becomes one. Says, yeah.
The quality of worship depends on the quality of faith. By now, it should be clear that non-devotees and mixed devotees are not fit to perform true bhajana. Srila Prabhupada confirms that only devotees at the stage of pure devotion can perform systematic worship. If you want to enjoy something material, there is no question of Bhagavad Bhajan. Because even if you have little pinch of desire to enjoy material comforts, you will not be admitted. Therefore, Krishna says, Sarvadharman Parityaja. Fully. Anya Abhilashita Shunyam.
There is one verse in Vishnu Purana, Vishayavishta Chittanam Vishnu Raveshana Bhavet. It says. Actually, there are 2 types of Avesh. One is Vishaya Avesh, another is Krishna Avesh. So, if you have a Vishaya Avesh, then Krishna Avesh cannot arise. Why? Like, you're lighting a fire in the furnace and you're also sprinkling water. Again lit a fire, again sprinkle water. And the net result, if you see, nothing happens. No cooking can happen if you keep on pouring water. So therefore, if one increases one's spiritual activities with intensity, then gradually over a period of time, one should be able to get rid of that material propensities. Prabhupada says that. Therefore, non-devotees and mixed devotees, they can't perform true bhajan properly, he says.
Mixed devotees and bhajan. That being the case, devotees who have not yet come to the stage of pure devotion should not be encouraged to engage in purposeful hearing of Krishna Leela. Worship performed with the body but devoid of pure faith is in fact merely ritualistic activity. It does not even qualify as devotion service in practice. Why?
Yeah, some people do a lot of rituals very nicely, like egging brahmanas also. They read rituals. But the rituals did not contain any devotion. That 8th offense we say, chanting of the holy name, it's not like some ritualistic activity. So therefore, they can't do purposeful hearing of Krishna Leela. If they do, they will criticize Krishna, considering him to be an ordinary person. So therefore, some people are stuck in the ritual. Now, this is actually Karma Kanda ritual is different from Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti ritual. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, we also chant, for example, 16 rounds we chant, and we may perform, then it can become niyama agraha. See, niyama agraha and niyama agraha. Agraha means to accept. Agraha means to reject. Like somebody is accepting sadhana card, for example. Prabhuji, I properly fill up. I always get 30% in sadhana card. If somebody, last 5 years I am filling up. Is it very helpful? See, if you're getting 30%, you are supposed to get 80% sadhana card. For last 5 years you're getting 30%, you are not making effort to improve. What is that called as? Niyama agraha. He is accepting sadhana card, but he is not bringing about improvement. Then what is the purpose of filling sadhana card? Tell me. And there's another person who says he's overconfident. He never fills sadhana card at all. He says, I am all right. He is niyama agraha. So niyama agraha, niyama agraha, both. Actually, if we are not making an effort to improve, we are not growing. There has to be regular efforts to improve, self-improvement. Yeah.
Still, such ritualistic activities done in the company of pure devotees with time bring mixed devotees to the stage of pure devotion. And pure devotion service eventually qualifies them for systematic worship.
Here is a clue he is giving. If somebody is Kanishta Adhikari, or if he is a ritualistic activity is doing, if he does it in company of pure devotees, pure devotees will not leave him to continue like this. They will purify him. Therefore, association with pure devotees is very wonderful. When Prabhupada, was in the West, whoever associated with him very closely, they advanced very rapidly. So that's the advantage of associating with pure devotees, even though we may be ritualistic. Yeah.
Efforts at bhajana with mixed devotion do not lead to perfection, however, but to rebirth in the material world.
Yeah. If you do mixed devotion, it doesn't lead to perfection. He's saying, yeah. Actually, what is the meaning of association? Association means associating with the consciousness. One time I had gone to Pune station to offer a rose garland to Navagindra Maharaj. It was offering the rose garland, petals are falling down. He said, hey, Radheshyam Prabhu, what is this? Maharaj sat down, started picking the petals, and I also picked up. He put in the plastic cover, he removed the garland and put it. He said, even one petal should not fall in the ground. Then he was telling the story of Indra and Durvasa Muni giving him garland and the elephant. So he was telling, we should be very careful. This is Mahaprasad of the Lord. See, on that day it made such a big difference to me. Afterwards, if somebody puts me garland, if the petals are loose, I also became very careful. But this carefulness came from where? By association. If you associate with somebody, like our Zolal Bhakti Prabhupada Maharaj, he stands for good japa. Correct, no? So you associate with him, you will be forced to improve the quality of japa. Correct, no? Everybody stands for teaching certain Vaishnava principles. Therefore, one should, even if you are ritualistic, he says, do it in the company of those are pure devotees. And by that, we will pick up the right kind of conduct, he's saying. That's how we can improve. Like here is the Brahmana and cobbler, Narada Muni, Narada Muni and... So, if people associate with somebody like Narada Muni, then eventually they have a chance to improve. Correct, no? Yeah.
Caution for devotees with pure faith. Devotees should also note that even if their faith is pure, they do not have carte blanche, complete freedom to act as one wishes. A carte blanche was a blank document signed in advance by one party and given to the other with permission to fill in conditions later.
That is called, in French, it's French word it is, yeah.
To perform systematic worship. Those who have not reached the stage...
That means devotees should know that even if their faith is pure, it's not that, okay, my faith is pure, now everything is done. There is some more thing to be done, he will tell now, yeah.
Those who have not reached the stage of steadiness, who are not freed from sensual distraction, should consider the following emphatic statement made by Lord Chaitanya.
Nishkinchanasya bhagavan bhajanonmukasya param param jagamashor bhavasagarasya sandarshanam vishayena matha yoshitam cha hanta hanta vishabhakshanato apyasadu.
Alas, for a person seriously desiring to cross the material ocean, engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord without material motives, seeing a materialist engage in sense gratification, seeing a woman who is similarly interested in more abominable than drinking poison willingly.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told this to Sarva Bhattacharya. When Bhattacharya requested him to meet Prataparudra, he said, alas, greatly lamenting, Lord Chaitanya said this, how can you ask me to meet a Vishayi, a king, who is always counting gold coins, who is living in the midst of politics? How can I meet him? For such a saintly person, Chaitanya said, for a person in renounced order to meet a very rich person or connect with a woman for sense gratification, these kind of things are more dangerous than drinking poison willingly. Another place Mahaprabhu says, based on Katyayani Samhita, he quotes one verse. He says, put me in a cage and lock me up and set the cage on fire. He says, I'll be more happy to live in that cage rather than associate with somebody who is non-devotee, like that he says. So, why he says this? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was already pure. But even those who are very pure should also be cautious, he is saying. What to speak of those who are not yet become pure? Huh? Yeah.
The purport of this verse is that devotees still attached to sense gratifications, specifically to the form of the opposite sex and the company of materialistic persons, cannot perform systematic worship of the holy name. Such petty indulgences offend the holy name, so the devotion service of such Vaishnavas is corrupted.
Yeah. See, this fellow is dreaming about material achievements in life. How can he call out the holy name fervently? Huh? There's no question. He is going to be carried by the current of material sense gratification. And by associating with such people, and we have to be warned because ISKCON society is not in the jungle. We are living in the heart of the city, and we are interacting with people from all levels of consciousness, the lowest to the highest. So if one is not beware of this, then subtly, imperceptibly, little by little, our good consciousness can get eroded by bad association. So, because we are living in the midst of a society which is money-minded, money and sense gratification is the goal of life. That is considered the standard of life. So, even as over a period of time, a devotee can become corrupt. If somebody comes in a big car, they will say a good party. They have come in a very big car, he's a good person. Why? Because he has a very big car. Or he is a crorepati or something like that. Actually, good or bad is not assessed based on material achievements in life. So, good means one who is willing to take to devotional service. That is the real good, absolute good. So, Prabhupada says standard morality means that morality by which the Supreme Lord is pleased. Prabhupada says that. So, if you are not careful, subtly our consciousness will be eroded. One example I'll tell you. Somebody invites you for some program in that place. You may say no. But later on they come to temple and they give you 5 lakh rupees, for example. Donation for some festival. When they call you, now please come to my home. No matter how busy you are, you will go. Correct now? Because money can control our mind. Our mind is subdued by money. So, therefore you will find tomorrow that person who is giving 5 lakh may also want to break one of the 4 regulative principles. He may be running a cigarette company or liquor company. And you will not have the guts to tell him that this is wrong. It's not proper. It is improper to do this. Why? Because he may fear that, then he may not give donation what he is giving. This way, even the preachers can become corrupt by associating with very wealthy people who are indulging in breaking the 4 regulative principles. And by not giving them the correct instruction, good instruction, we also become corrupt. We become polluted also over a period of time. So, Iswala Sachudas Maharaj in one of his books writes, the brahmacharis should not think we have gone to the homes of some householders and eaten prasadam, Brahman bhojan or something, and in this way performed our dharma. They should not think like that. And householders should not think, take this donation and leave us, don't disturb us, because we are too busy with our material life. So householders should not do like that. So both these examples I gave you now are examples of corrupt ashrama order. Householders can definitely give donation, but they also have to take to devotional practices seriously. Brahmacharis may once in a while go and take prasadam, but they should not think by eating prasad we are doing great dharma. One should actually sing the holy names and give some Krishna Katha, without which our eating program is incomplete. Correct, no? Yeah. Therefore, how we become corrupt is also explained here. Yeah. Yes.
Their agitated minds can never engage in systematic worship of the Lord. The best such neophyte devotees can hope for is a partial semblance of the same. Serious sadhakas, on the contrary, strive for self-realization and voluntarily restrain their senses from sense objects. Real bhajan requires spontaneous attraction to Krishna. As the strength of that attraction grows, so does their disinterest in mundane affairs.
Yeah. Actually, if you are going to be attracted to materialistic things, then we become very slow in spiritual life. Yeah.
Finally, devotees with advanced attraction easily absorb their mind in Krishna's names and savor a taste so sweet that they turn away from sense gratification with disgust. In fact, at the most advanced stages, they fear the sight of materialists and the opposite sex in the same way one fears a live serpent. They do not even glance at such.
See, he is not telling for neophyte devotees. He is talking for whom? Most advanced stages. They even fear the sight of materialists and the opposite sex in the same way as one fears. That means, there's a saying, fools rush in where the angels fear to tread. There's a saying, the meaning is that the most advanced devotees like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for example, set the role model example. Although he is Krishna himself in the Radha Bhav, still he is setting such staunch example on these points. Yeah, yes.
They do not even glance at such representations of the material energy.
See, they do not even glance at such a representation of material energy. Mahaprabhu says that if you take a Daru Murti, he says that if you take the wooden doll of a woman, he says, a man may still be attracted even to that. Even one cannot, touch such a wooden doll, like that he says. Mahaprabhu says in one of the instructions, he says. So therefore, those who are really serious should take this instruction seriously. Yeah.
Devotees should also keep in mind that the stage of bondage, systematic worship, is still immature and materially tainted. Until pure goodness appears in a sadhaka's heart, subtle forms of material identification continue to exert their influence.
Yeah. You can see Vishwamitra, all the spider webs are growing around him, but the attraction is not gone. Huh? But after indulging with Menaka, when Menaka brought the Shakuntala, at that time his knowledge awakened. I have forgotten my bhajan. Huh? He got carried away. Yeah.
One should not therefore confuse an immature mood of devotion with pure emotion, with bhava or rati.
Sometimes the neophyte devotees talk big things like this bottom picture you see. Devotee thinks that Krishna should come and hold the umbrella for me if rain comes because I am chanting his names. One devotee was telling this. Prabhuji, I am in the middle of a field, I am chanting holy names. If Krishna comes and holds umbrella, how nice it will be. I said, are you Raghunath Das? That Radharani will come and hold the end of her sari for you, huh? Isn't it? Some neophyte devotees imagine that they are pure devotees. Like, look at this girl, she is playing on the veena and singing. She is thinking Shuka Parrot will come and talk to me, huh? As if she is Radharani's associate. Huh? So sometimes in neophyte stage, even though we do so much sense gratification, still we imagine ourselves to be pure devotees like Mirabai or somebody like that. We are imagining.
Only genuine ecstatic devotion can transform into a relationship with Krishna and thus invoke the true taste of Bhakti Ras. Thakur Bhaktivinoda calls the moods displayed by conditioned devotees imposed. There may be phases of progressive bhajana, but they are by no means its goals of perfection. To misidentify one's imposed meditations with pure emotion leads to the degradation of worship rather than to its goal.
Yeah, these are pictures of Sahajyas. Huh? The Sahajyas, they dance, sing, Radhe, 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 Radhe and all that. But actually they do a lot of sense gratification also. Huh? In the name of devotion service. So these things are useless, he says. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. Imposed meditation. Yeah.
Bhakti Siddhanta Surya Thakur wrote a book called Prakrit Ras Shat Dushari to warn devotees of the dangers of imitating systematic worship and to explain how to avoid such imitation and those who teach it. In the first verse he writes, "O brothers, transcendental mallows, rasa cannot be awakened by any material effort."
Yeah, sometimes people do this rasa dance and Radha Krishna dance and things like that. But they are driven by material, mundane rasa. Boys, girls come and they do dandiya ras during the time of so these kind of things, prakrita cheshtate bhai, kabhu rasahayana, he's saying. Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada repeatedly echoed this understanding with statements such as, in the material world, there cannot be any real love. Therefore, the real love cannot be appreciated with our material senses. Whatever we appreciate or experience by the material senses, that is not love, that is lust. Motive, there is some motive.
Yeah. So what you see in the picture is, we also have that, I think. See that picture there, same. You can see Krishna is playing with the covered boys and Yashoda is calling. Krishna comes running back. And Yashoda's love for Krishna is so powerful that Krishna is putting his hand around the neck of the mother and covered boys are calling, Krishna, are you not coming to play? So Krishna is showing this flower to the friend. His all, His Grace Dinabandhu Prabhu was telling this past time. He's telling, look at the fragrance of this flower. My mother's love is greater than this. How can I leave her and come? He's saying. So that is pure love.
Wise practitioners follow the Acharya's advice and do not identify the mood of their bhajan with rasa. That is, they do not identify the
Vraja in five rasas and trying to emulate how to attain the Siddha Deha. Especially is talking about that one should not do that. First, one should get purified first. That's the point, yeah. So, can very advanced Vaishnavas by the spiritual influence can empower even unqualified audience to hear? Some people say this, that they can understand intimate details. The answer he says is, since it is all powerful Krishna who empowers the devotees, there is no use arguing what advanced Vaishnavas can or cannot do. They may have such a sway over the listeners, but the real question is whether they deem it appropriate to elevate an unqualified audience. The answer, of course, is that they do not. Like Srila Prabhupada joked about some guru touching somebody and electrifying his body, and the guru lost all potency. So Prabhupada said, this kind of magic and all doesn't happen. The price must be paid and process must be followed. Only then you will attain. Empowered devotees bestow their audience with the kind of knowledge by which they can elevate themselves. That means Prabhupada gave systematic knowledge in his 100 plus books he has given. Study the books, take to the practice, whole life do Sankirtan. Like the way Prabhupada taught, then all perfection will be achieved. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also wants this. A devotee should never speak on the topic of devotional mellows to one who has a weak or pliable faith. Neither should he attempt to bestow the qualifications of rasa upon one who is unfit, is warning. So, authorized Vaishnavas, be they speakers or listeners, must honor this principle during Krishna conscious discourses. We should not speak something which is not fitting to the weak-minded hearers. Otherwise, it will be ninth offense. Yeah. It was certainly the conduct of Prabhupada displayed, and it is the tradition of Gaudiya Vaishnavas, which means Prabhupada is speaking here about Nanda Maharaj followed by the snake. Prabhupada would speak this type of pastimes. This is the conduct of a greatest devotee. Prabhupada spoke all the pastimes, not purposefully only on Gopi Leela. So, yeah, recently a few senior ISKCON devotees have begun performing week-long discourses advertised as Bhagavad Saptaha in these temples. This resulted in controversy. Devotees want to know whether these performances constitute a breach of Prabhupada's instructions. So, the answer to the question lies not in the name given to such discourses, but in the propriety of the topics discussed. Of course, ISKCON devotees do it with utmost caution. They don't do Gopi Leela. They are doing, like we did Bhagavad Saptaha in Pune. One day Prahlad, one day Dhruva, one day Narada, one day Ambarish, like that we did. So, we can teach the basics through Bhagavad Saptaha package. But we should not go to 10th canto directly. Yeah. Yes. The Prabhupada says, you find out some place immediately so that while I am remaining, by performing Bhagavad Saptaha, I am influencing the Indian rich men here, they can purchase, she will also contribute. Yeah. So that means Prabhupada was not against the word Bhagavad Saptaha, but at the same, instead of Bhagavad Saptaha, we use the word Bhagavad Katha in ISKCON. Yeah. Guests may have attended these functions under the impression that they would hear Krishna Leela, but Prabhupada spoke to his audience as always about basic principles of Krishna consciousness. That's the point. But if they speak about Krishna's intimate pastimes, then Prabhupada would be very heavy about it. Prabhupada was not happy about that. Yeah. First of all, one has to become a liberated person by understanding Krishna. Krishna Swarupa Vichara Unasanat Santana Krishna. Actually, this is from the Madhya Leela. Oh Sanatan, please hear about the eternal form of Lord Krishna. He is absolute truth, devoid of duality, but present in Vrindavan as son of Nanda Maharaj. So, actually, speaking about the tattva of Krishna to the people is very important. How Krishna is Parama Tattva, Sarva Shaktiman, Akhila Rasamrita Murti. Without that, directly going to Leela would be damaging to the audience, and it will become offensive for the speaker also. Shri Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta-vrinda ki. Thank you very much. Maharaj, generally I do till 9:30. I exceeded a little bit. I'm sorry. You want to comment, Maharaj, anything? Thank you. Hare Krishna.